And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit. Like God's property, it's hard to market. So we steady to aim, keep your eyes on target. Cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping close hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the
Okay, I was just thinking about this morning. I grew up Baptist. I went to Vacation Bible School. I've read the Bible. I don't know if I'm interpreting it correctly, but if we are made in God's image, right, and the first modern humans originated in Africa, if God has a human form, God is black. God is black.
I was a Christian missionary for years, but there came a time in my life when I realized that what I was taught about the Bible was a lie. In my confusion, I cried out for help. I met an Israelite who introduced me to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, who is described in the Bible as having hair white as wool and eyes red as fire. Yes, the God in the Bible is black.
It does not matter what color Jesus was. What matters is that he came to the earth, lived a perfect life, died a death for the sins of the world, and then conquered the grave, proving that he is the Son of God. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
It just doesn't matter. 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 It just doesn't matter.
This fake white Jesus that people be praising was made white for oppression, for brainwashing. And if skin color doesn't matter, if Jesus being black does not matter, change all the images. Change all the jewelry you got of a white Jesus, change all the statues y'all got, change all the artwork y'all got to a black Jesus. If it doesn't matter, it's so easy, it's a simple fix. Why not if it doesn't matter? But it does matter. But it does matter, huh? But it does matter. And that's why you won't change anything. And that's why even though y'all know Jesus is black, you make every excuse in the book on why now it doesn't matter.
Hitler was, and the Nazis, of course, expanded on Margaret Sanger's approach to eugenics, right? Eugenics was a movement that was born in the United States under hard doctrines of racism with the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African-American community in this country, right? To eliminate them. with the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Judah, with the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African American community in this country, right? To eliminate them.
You know what you are? You're an ancient Israelite.
Ancient Israel, that's who we are. That's who we are. So if you give me time, if you give me time, all that he said.
I know. We don't have.
So many years.
I know. Look at this. This is pages and pages of
Yes.
notes. And I promise we'll give more teaching. But here is my challenge to you.
All right.
I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites or you want to be Jews? Do you want to remain ancient?
We went to a church yesterday. We were teaching outside. As soon as the church heard Jesus was black, they were infuriated. We've just reading the scripture. They got so mad, they threw rocks. Why? Because a lot of you in Kenya hate yourself. You hate the way you look. You hate anything black. Why? Because it upsets your European colonizers.
Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
I want to say peace and blessings to you guys. Apologies for being late. Matter of fact, let me close some of these apps down. I got a lot running here. Let me make sure that this doesn't hinder my performance here. All right, let's do this here real quick. Close out some of this stuff. Some of you techies out there, you guys know how it goes. We're terrible with having so many windows and so many tabs. So let me go ahead and address this real quick before we get into our lesson, because I definitely don't want to deal with any issues. All right. You know what? I'll leave that one. I can leave that there. Okay. All right, family. I want to say peace and blessings to you guys. Hope and pray all is well with you guys as we, most of us will be honoring the Pasach today, as well as the seventh-day Shabbat, the routine Shabbat. Want to say peace and blessings to you guys. And, you know, just even when you think about Pasach, Passover, you know, just a reminder, not just what the Most High had done for our people, but when you understand what the word Pasach means, it means to hesitate, right? It means to hop over or skip over. So when you're honoring Pasach, you are celebrating how the Most High skipped over, hesitated his judgment. And so for anyone that is teaching grace, the Passover is going to remind you of grace. Grace didn't start with Apostle Paul. Grace didn't start with the disciples. Grace started, it was instituted from the very beginning. When Adam and Eve sinned, went against the Most High, grace kicked in. The Most High already had a plan of grace in place. That's where we get into the sacrifices. But when we get to the Exodus, chapter 12, Shem, Wath, chapter 12, you know, we understand the fullness of what the word Pasach means. That is grace. Because we as the people of the Most High, we weren't innocent. When our ancestors, when they were in Egypt as slaves, they took on many of the practices of the Egyptians, right? So none of us was innocent. So when we celebrate Passover or Pasach, We're thanking the Most High for the grace. We're celebrating the grace that he extended us in connection to the promise. So I want to point that out because one of the things that the church has deceptively taught is that, or give this appearance that grace kicked in the so-called New Testament, right? As if, the law, statutes, and commandments there was no grace there. And it's pretty easy to shut down anyone that is teaching contrary. But anyway, just want to say Shabbat, Shalom to you guys and to others. I'll just say Shalom or Shabbat, Shalom to you. But you guys know how we roll over here with the ancient Hebrew, Shabbat, Shalom. So tonight, this is an unscheduled live. I pushed the live that I was going to do earlier to tomorrow, dealing with Ye. But I wanted to deal with this here, kind of touch on this and really go into the scriptures as well. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but Bishop Nathaniel of the IUIC camp, they have a very large ministry. They do a lot internationally, and they were doing outreach or evangelism in Kenya. And as you heard in the video, and I will play it again, they were met with some challenges. Well, I know some of you guys are probably asking, well, what are the challenges? Because they were teaching a Negro Messiah. That's right, family. A Negro Messiah caused a stir over in Kenya. Let me play the clip for you guys. Let me play the clip for you guys real quick for those that didn't catch it in the beginning. All right, let's see here. Here it is.
We went to a church yesterday. We were teaching outside. As soon as the church heard Jesus was black, they were infuriated. We've just reading the scripture. They got so mad, they threw rocks. Why? Because a lot of you in Kenya hate yourself. You hate the way you look. You hate anything black. Why? Because it upsets your European colonizers.
And so that's what we're going to deal with tonight. Give a little history of the root to the problem, give a key prophecy that's going to tie all of this together. So that way none of you guys should be surprised because the scripture warned us. And this is why we have to be careful, especially to our brothers and sisters that are traveling around the world. You have to pay attention to the prophecies. Not discouraging because, hey, we're supposed to witness to our brothers and sisters that are scattered to the four corners of this earth. But we have to make sure we put things in its proper perspective. We have to make sure we put things in its proper perspective. And I'm going to touch on that once we get to that point. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. And I'm not surprised by what took place, by what transpired, but we are going to give some scriptures that already warned us, that already given prophecies of these things to come, or the things that we are experiencing right now. All right. So again, based upon what we see or heard in that video, and I'm so sure some of you guys already know, many, overseas, many of our brothers and sisters, not just overseas, but in this country, here in the U.S., down in Brazil, love this image. They love this Christ versus the Negro Messiah. Let me say that again. They will love and they will rather worship this Christ or a green Christ. They say that he's olive. You guys already know what that means. Anything but the Negro. So This is why it's so imperative for us not to forget some things that I'm going to go over here inside this lesson. And family, I'm here to tell you, doing evangelism is not easy. It's not easy. I'll say that again. Doing evangelism is not easy. Been there, done that, been on the streets evangelizing. And it's not easy. And not many enjoy doing that. So as many times I went out doing evangelism by myself because of where I came up at as a minister. Most, I would say 90% of those that was there did not want to even go near a street for us in terms of witnessing. So though I don't agree with the doctrine for us, the One West doctrine, but I will say this, I have to commend these guys for being out there beating the pavement, so to speak. I have to give it to them, because they are doing things that many don't want to do or don't have the courage to do. So nevertheless, but let's go ahead and get into this here. Kenya loves white Jesus. And I didn't have the chance. I was going to put my good times stuff up here, my clips up here from good times. And I left my hard drive upstairs. So, oh well. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and get into this. Let's go ahead and provide some answers to why these guys had to deal with what they dealt with over in Kenya. Right? This is a quote from Malcolm X. I love this quote. It is so real. If you aren't careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Let me say that again. If you aren't careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. So I want to start with this thought here. King Leopold enslaved and slaughtered 10 to 15 million Negroes of the Congo to further push the lie that this territory was uninhabited. So let's give a little source here. Let's touch on this a little bit. Belgium, too arrogant to apologize for killing 15 million Congolese. All right. To be sure, all European colonists carried out unspeakable atrocities in Africa. The first and most benumbing was the Belgian seizure of the DRC in 1885 by King Leopold II, the brother of King Philippi, great grandfather, under whose rule 15 million Congolese were murdered. This is the highest known figure of genocide in the world, even as the lunatic Nazi Holocaust against innocent and defenseless Jews. The highest estimated casualty figure was 6 million. Yet, till today, the Germans show remorse. They paid reparations and their children that there is no excuse whatsoever for such atrocities. And everything must be done to ensure genocide never occurs again. In contrast, the Belgians show no remorse, would not apologize, pay no reparation, make excuses for the genocide, do not teach this part of their history in schools, and have not campaigned against a possible repeat of their history of genocide. So again, the Belgians show no remorse and would not apologize, pay no reparations, make excuses for the genocide. But I want to just hone in on King Leopold. Did King Leopold know and understand Deuteronomy 28? And fam, let me ask you guys this question. Do you believe that our oppressors know and understand Deuteronomy 28, those curses, or should I say the consequences? Because that chapter starts off with the blessings and then close out with the consequences. The actual curses is listed in chapter 27. But do you guys believe that these guys, our oppressors, do you believe that they actually know this prophecy? I believe so. I believe so. They left no stone unturned, uncovered. They know this prophecy. They know that these prophecies, especially the curses or the consequences listed here, they know that we are on the receiving end of these consequences. But nevertheless, did King Leopold know and understand Deuteronomy 28? Let's go to this letter here. Let's go to this letter. This is an important letter, and I encourage you guys, download it. Download it. Matter of fact, let me see if I can drop this source, or at least drop the information on this letter inside the chat. All right. If not, you have it on the screen. You know, I don't want to waste a lot of time. If I can't get it, yeah, it's on your screen, though, family. So you have it on your screen. Letter from King Leopold II of Belgium to Colonial missionaries, 1883. Let me read it again. Letter from King Leopold II of Belgium to Colonial missionaries, 1883. And why is this important, family? Because you're going to see the playbook that King Leopold administered to the Congos. It wasn't just a playbook for there. It was all through the continent of Africa. Actually, this is the playbook no matter where they managed to land on. But when we really understand their playbook, we're still seeing this playbook play out right now, even in our communities. Have you ever wondered why we see these big cathedrals, and now many are taking on the posture, want to have these mega or large size ministries? In whose neighborhood? For the most part, where do you see these ministries located at? Where do you see these buildings located at? When you look at our people that are seeking to have these large ministries or these large structures, where is it located at? Like we see or remember the whole thing with the craziness with Marvin Sapp asking for $40,000 in the offering that they didn't need. But anyway, but let's get into this. Let's kind of like expose the playbook, because what you see or what you heard that took place in Kenya to Bishop Nathaniel and his group, the behavior that you see there stems from this playbook that you are going to hear as I read it. This is the playbook. Missionaries are nothing more than spies. But let's see the playbook. Let's read the playbook out loud. Letter from King Leopold II of Belgium to Colonial missionaries, 1883. Reverends, fathers, and dear compatriots, the task that is given to fulfill is very delicate, excuse me, and requires much tact. You will go certainly to evangelize, but your evangelization must inspire above all Belgium interests. Now think about it. Listen to what he just said. Your evangelization must inspire above all Belgium interests. Your principal objective in our mission in Congo is never to teach the niggas to know God. This they know already. They speak and submit to a Mungu, one Nzambi, one Nzakomba, and what else I don't know. Now, This right here is alarming because this tells you about syncretism that already took place and the information that came back to him. And we'll get to that in a second. But the key was all about pushing their agenda. This wasn't all about the love of Jesus, their Christ that they worship. This wasn't under the love of the true Messiah of the scriptures. All of this was done in the name of their Jesus, not Yahweh Shah. Under their Jesus, this is okay. Under their Jesus, it's so they can use the colloquialism of this word niggers that comes from the word nigaz or neges, in which they made into a slang. Still with Deuteronomy 28, right? But anyway, it goes on to say, this they know already. They speak and submit to a Mungu, one in Zombie, one in Zakomba, and what else I don't know. But a key quote in here, what I just read, it says, our mission in the Congo is never to teach the N-words to know God. This they know already. So let's go to Deuteronomy 28, verse 36 to see how this ties in. And this is coming from the Tanakh. It says here, Yahweh will drive you and the king you have set over you to a nation unknown to you or your fathers, where you shall serve other Elohim of wood and stone. We are sons and daughters of this. We are prisoners of war. We are sons and daughters of the prisoners of war. That's a fact, if you understand the art of war. So how did the people already know about God per se, according to King Leopold II? How did they already know? How did they already know? Now we know that we had Israelites, when we start dealing with the Spanish Inquisition, being sent to the West Coast and all. We already know that they had migration patterns there as well. But how did they know, according to what King Leopold pointed out when he mentioned Nzambi? Because that was a trigger, a red flag when I read this. Like, wait a minute, how did they know about Nzambi and making the connection to, let's just go off of the letter God per se? Well, they were taught about Yahweh, according to the Catholics, through a tool called syncretism. They learned a version, an inaccurate version, through syncretism. And syncretism is what allowed the Catholic Church to use Nzambi synonymous with the Most High. Anyway, that's a whole nother teaching, that in itself. So what is syncretism? For those that may not be familiar with it, let me break it down real quick. Syncretism, reconciliation of different beliefs. It goes on to say union of communities to combine against a common enemy, lying, to lie like a Cretan, to mix, blend, mixture. So in a nutshell, it's mixing and meshing. And I'm going to break it down here in a second. What is Catholicism? So that way we bring all of this together. What is Catholicism? As we see here, of the doctrines of the ancient church, universally accepted. So that word Catholic means universal. It means general. This is where you get the word generic. Generic comes from the word, general comes from the word generic, and generic comes from the word gene. And gene means begat. So Catholic means universal. It means general. It means generic. So Catholic means, again, general or universal, but it also means general or generic. So universal simply means the doctrine of unity. Let me say that again. Universal simply means the doctrine of unity, which we get the Trinitarian concept. Who is unity? I'm just going to do this as a refresher to some of you guys. Unity is Etruscan name for the for the Great Mother Holy Trinity, a 3-in-1 goddess who gave birth to the universe. She was represented by the sign of female genitals. Uni was a cognate of Yanni. You know, when you're dealing with the Yanni, that's dealing with the female's reproductive organ. I'm just going to say it that way. In Rome, the three were worshipped as the early Capitoline triad, Virgin Mother Chrome. This is the Trinity before it was introduced by Tertullian to the, I would say, 2nd and 3rd century Roman Catholic Church. The Messiah didn't tell or ever teach about serving or worshiping a Trinity. The Most High never referred to the Trinity, a Trinity. The word Trinity is not even in the scriptures. That's a whole nother discussion. And please don't, for those that are watching from the church, please don't bring up Godhead, because Godhead simply means divine. It does not mean what it's been made out to be of today. That's a whole nother discussion. But nevertheless, the Capitoline triad, Virgin Mother Chrome. But in imperial times, the Virgin Goddess was removed to make room for Jupiter, the name of Uni invoked into Yun or Juno. So let's go to this dictionary here. Right? This is for many of our brothers and sisters who are coming to understanding who you are. And I know many of our brothers and sisters have really gone into getting into the Bantu language and really not understanding the Bantu language and understanding how it all come about, how it all came together in terms of the source. That's the point that I want to make, because Bantu, that whole term, the Europeans used that term to come up with a class of languages, because Bantu consists of over 200 plus languages. That's a fact. But this source right here, this is the handbook where many of the lingo, so to speak, have come from. And this book was written by a Baptist missionary, Reverend W. Holman Bentley, missionary of the Baptist Missionary Society on Congo. And this is the book that he put together. Now I did, like I may pull the dust off of that old series or the old lesson that I did to show you exactly how he put this together and how syncretism really in full effect on how to port over or mesh two belief systems, different belief systems into one. And that's how they were able to grow the Catholic Church through slavery, but also through syncretism. All right. So look at here. As you see here in this definition, this book that he put together, the Dictionary of Grammar. Let me go back here. You see in the back here, you see Nzambi and Pungu, right? You see here it says Nzambi, God. Then we see here Nzambi and Pungu, God, the Almighty, the Most High. He and the Roman Catholic Church, all of these guys put this together. And Nzambi wasn't worshiping, that phrase was not initially associated with our Allahaya, Yahweh Allahaya. All right. And you see here in Nzambi, respectful answer to a call. All right. So these are some different terms here, but this is from the book that he put together. All right. Now, as you see here again, Nzambi, God. All right. All right. This is what I read. and Zambia Pungu, God, the Almighty Most High. Let's go to Afro-Christian syncretism, the Kingdom of Congo. Let's go here, page 55. Give some great information, but I'm not going to go into the details of this, but just so that way you guys get an idea of how syncretism works. Thus, earlier Christianity absorbed Hellenistic elements through the vehicle of prophecy and divine revelation as much as through a process of matching or exchanging core values. So too did the development of medieval Christianity in its engagement with the religions of the Northwestern Europe. The question, important in particular to those who study the Congo diaspora, to the Americas, of whether or to what degree the Congo were Christians is ultimately really a sectarian one over that constitute the core principles of Christianity. Throughout its history, as a world religion, Christianity has incorporated outside beliefs from its origins. Jewish millenarian cult to its wedding with Greek philosophies, Rome state demands, Germanic customs, and so on. The whole history of the church has involved syncretism, of one or another sort. And fundamentalists in all eras have sought through its original text to locate or relocate their original unsyncretized religion. So how does this work, family? Let me just break it down real quick. Let's just say you go to a different area. They don't have any clue about you. Matter of fact, I'm just going to use this as an example. I'm on the island of, let's just say, Guam, right? And so they will come to the island of Guam and they will try to see what could they do to push their religion. So they want to try to look for ways of trying to port their beliefs over and connect it to my belief. So they'll ask me the question, let's just say, do you have someone that you believe in to be the chief of all your gods or all the things you believe in? Or let's just say in this case, since I'm on the island of gum, do you have a flavor of gum that's more dominant than any other flavor of gum? So if I say cinnamon, right? So then they'll say, okay, we're going to use cinnamon and we're going to call cinnamon in your language or from your island, cinnamon to be the transliteration of the word God. Hey, do you have another flavor that's second in line or just as important, but may not have the same authority? Do you have something like that? And I can say, well, yeah, then I have spearmint gum. Okay, well, we'll use that spearmint gum and we'll call the spearmint gum the sun. That'll be, according to your island, cinnamon to be the name of, we'll use that to say God. And spearmint, since you said that's second in command, that's what we'll use as the name of the sun. That's what syncretism is. It's mixing and meshing. And guess what? Truth be told, the church is still operating in this behavior. That's right, family. And I'm not just dealing with the Europeans. I'm not dealing with the Caucasians. I'm dealing with, let's just start from internal. Have you noticed every time there's a hit song in the secular world, we have a way of taking that secular song and trying to slap a couple of words of like faith and trust and God. We're going to throw that on it and say, hey, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just music. That's syncretism. You're taking that same spirit and you're bringing it into your worship service. So just like that song, I guess, that viral song, Boots on the Ground, you have churches that have done their own version, saying they got to put a faith or something like that, faith in their prayer, their faith, whatever. Family, that is syncretism. Taking secular songs and fusing it with or sprinkling over a couple of words of the Bible per se. And now you brought that spirit inside your worship. So think about that. So that boots on the ground, I'm just going to use this for an example. Right? You know, they have the fans. Where your fans at? And the people are opening and closing their fans. Well, guess what? When a clip that I have of a church doing that is singing that, guess what the women at the altar worship team is doing? They got the fan in their hand and they doing the exact same moves pretty much. That is syncretism. Have the same spirit right inside their ministry. That's right. Kirk Franklin is good for that as well. So that's just an example, family, of syncretism. And the simplest form of that is what you see happening when taking secular things and bringing it into the ministry, their ministries. All right. So Nzambi and Pugu was never referred to as a high god until the usage of syncretism. Let me say that again. Nzambi and Pugu was never referred to as a high god until the usage of syncretism, until the Christian Catholic Church got a hold of this community. All right, so let's go back to this letter. Let's go to another key point of this letter. It reads, your knowledge of the Gospels will allow you to find text ordering and encouraging your followers to love poverty. Do we see this playbook playing out right now? Let me read this again. Your knowledge of the Gospels will allow you to find text ordering and encouraging your followers to love poverty. Have we not, as a community, been taught to embrace poverty? We've been taught to embrace poverty. You know, one of the songs that used to get up under my skin, By and By. Y'all remember that song, By and By? By and By. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You know, certain songs that was in place to teach us to embrace things getting better after we die. The way that we were taught about resurrection after you die. That's what our ancestors here in slavery, that's the mindset that the colonizers had given them. To give up, don't worry about it. Guess what? Things will get better in your death. When you die, you'll experience the New Jerusalem. You know, y'all's going to wipe every tear from your eye. Y'all know the whole routine. That's the brainwashing right here. We see the playbook right here. Have you ever noticed that, especially when if many of you guys that grew up in the church, especially testimony service, man, that used to be a pet peeve of mine watching it as a kid. It's like, man, why is everyone coming up looking like they struggling? You ask them how they doing. Oh, I'm just barely making it. You know, you have to look like you don't have anything. You have to look like you're poor. You have to look like you're run down. Now, I understand there's circumstances and situations that, hey, people are challenged financially. I understand that. But the way that I was taught, that you don't have to look like your situation. You do not have to look like your situation. Look like where you're trying to get to, not where you are. But think about it. Look at what he says here. Your knowledge of the Gospels will allow you to find text, ordering, doesn't sound like the slave Bible, and encouraging your followers to love poverty, like happier are the poor because they will inherit the earth. And it's very difficult for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. You guys heard these before. They're still giving these scriptures. You have to detach from them and make them disrespect everything which gives courage to affront us. I make reference to their mystic system and their war fetish, war protection, which they pretend not to want to abandon. And you must do everything in your power to make it disappear. So now they're telling these missionaries to be spies, to infiltrate our communities, so that way they can make us, so that way we let our guards down, push this religion on us, this syncretism on us. Now we start taking on this docile mindset. What is the other passages that they use to manipulate our minds? Is love your enemies. Love your enemies. God said love your enemies, or Jesus said love your enemies. That's the very playbook King Leopold was pushing here. That's the playbook that these colonizers use all through the continent of Africa. Matter of fact, everywhere they landed their feet on, that is the playbook. So let me go back here one more time. It says, your knowledge of the gospel will allow you, and when you look at gospel, the word gospel actually is got spell or good spell. That's the actual proper word, good spell. It's an error to say gospel. It's actually good spell. And we know that there's no such thing as a good spell. See, I grew up in the Baptist church. They didn't use the word gospel. They used the word good news. I'm not sure if you guys, some of the churches that you may have grown up in, they didn't use gospel. They used good news. The Most High is not putting a spell on anyone. And when you look at the word God, it points to the Norse belief system. G-O-T-T, God, singular, Gotter, plural, of their deities. So it says your knowledge of the good spell, because they're telling them to what? Operate in spell casting. Your knowledge of the gospel or good spell will allow you to find text ordering and encouraging your followers to love poverty. Like happier are the poor because they will inherit the heaven. And it's very difficult for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. You have to detach from them and make them disrespect everything which gives courage to affront us. So it's like, hey, now you got to make sure everything that they would normally hold on to have their defenses up, to come against us, you have to get them to let their guards down. I make reference to their mystic system and their war fetish, warfare protection, which they pretend not to want to abandon. And you must do everything in your power to make it disappear. So let's go to Matthew chapter 19, verse 23. This is what they use. They Yahushua unto his disciples, verily I say unto you, that a rich man shall hardly enter into the kingdom of heaven. And let's go to this curse here, Deuteronomy 28, or consequences, verse 43. The stranger that is well within thee shall get up above thee very high. See, these missionaries are sent out, going into these different communities, and now, guess what? They manipulated through manipulation, through the God spell or good spell, they were able to manipulate the people to where as though they start putting them up on pedestals, putting them on altars, putting them on what is called movable floats. In other words, parading them around. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high. He didn't say high, he said very high. And thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. I'm telling you, Leopold knew Deuteronomy 28. So he said, you have to detach from them and make them disrespect everything which gives courage. Let's go to verse 29 in Deuteronomy 28. And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in the darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. So let's go back to this letter. King Leopold knew Deuteronomy 28. Your action will, and this is what he's tasking these missionaries, these reverends, these preachers to doing. Your action will be directed essentially to the younger ones. Look at this now. They're going after who? The kids. It says your actions will be directed essentially to the younger ones, for they won't revolt when the recommendation of the priest is contradictory to their parents' teachings. The children have to learn to obey what the missionary recommends. Who is the father of their soul? You must singularly insist on their total submission. So now this is how, what Paul talks about creeping into the homes. See, now Leopold is teaching them how to creep into the homes by way of the children, and teaching the children to revolt against the parents, the children to trust them more than their own parents. Look at this. Your actions will be directed essentially to the younger ones, for they won't revolt when the recommendation of the priest is contradictory to their parents' teachings. The children have to learn to obey what the missionary recommends. Who is the father of their souls? You must singularly insist on their total submission and obedience. Avoid developing the spirit in the schools. Look at this. Avoid developing the spirit in the schools. Teach students to read and not to reason. Let me say that again. Teach the students to read and not to reason. Think about what the church is taught as well. You don't go against the pastor. The pastor has the final say. These different organizations, religious organizations, this is how they move. The Jehovah's Witnesses, this is how they move. And many within this awakening move the same way. Teach the students to read and not to reason. Their patriots are some principles that you must apply. You will find many other books which will be given to you at the end of this conference. Evangelize the N-words so that they stay forever in submission to the white colonialists, so they never revolt against the restraints they are undergoing. Recite every day, happy are those who are weeping, because the kingdom of God is for them. See the delusion here? See how they go after the young people? See how they're taught that through religion, teaching the young people to be more dedicated to a religion than to listen to their own parents. This spirit is going on right now. This spirit is going on right now. But this is the playbook that King Leopold and all these colonizers used when they conquered different territories. And this is why you see the behavior that you see inside that Bishop Nathaniel and his group had to experience when they went to Kenya. And I'm sure they had some run-ins in some other areas. So children have to learn to obey what the missionary recommends. Look at Deuteronomy 28:32. Thy son and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail without longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. Luke 6:21. And this is what one of the passages they taught as a form of manipulation, casting spells. Blessed are ye that hunger now, for ye shall be fulfilled. Blessed are ye that weep now, for ye shall laugh. All right. So remember here it says the N-words, so that they stay forever in submission to the white colonialists. Well, Deuteronomy 28, starting at verse 49. Look at this. This is coming from the Tanakh. Yahweh will bring a nation against you from afar, from the end of the earth, which will swoop down like the eagle, a nation whose language you do not understand. Verse 50. a ruthless nation that will show the old no regard and the young no mercy. It shall devour the offspring of your cattle, the produce of your soil, until you have been wiped out, leaving you nothing of new grain, wine, oil, of the calving of your herds. Let's go back to this letter. I'm telling you, King Leopold, these guys knew, they understand the curses or the consequences. They understand Deuteronomy 27 and 28. Look at this here. Convert always the blacks by using the whip. Let me say that again. Convert always the blacks using the whip. Now you have to ask the question, why would anyone want to be part of a religion that they have to beat you to get you? Come on now. Come on now. Convert always the blacks by using the whip, by using force. Keep their women in 9 months of submission. Family, that is important. See, this makes me think about what my grandmother taught me about relationships. And one thing she always told me, she said, hey, and she told me, my brothers and all, she's like, hey, if it takes 9 months for a baby to be developed in form and born, it's going to take at least 9 months before you actually meet the person. In other words, that day one, when you meet someone, okay, you know, they have the mask up, but eventually that mask is going to get heavy. No matter how much that mask weigh, eventually it's going to get heavy. Then you're going to actually be introduced to the person. That's across the board, whether you establish friends, whatever the case may be. It takes 9 months. And look what he has here. It says, keep their women in 9 months of submission to work freely for us. Come on now. Come on now. Let me read that one more time. Keep their women in 9 months of submission to work freely for us. Do you not see this inside the church? The church focuses on who? The women. Getting the women to do what? Work for free. Most of the work in the church is being done by who? Keep their women in 9 months of submission to work freely for us. Force them to pay you and sign a recognition, goats, chicken, or eggs every time you visit their villages. So now it's like program the women to show more respect for these strangers than the men within their own community. Use whips to force our people into submission. Keep the women separated. 9 months, making them work for free for them. Force them to pay them and a sign of recognition. Goats, chicken, eggs. Pay them for their brutality. Pay them for their deception. Pay them for their delusion. Pay them for their agenda. Come on, family. It's right here in your face. And make sure that the N-words never become rich. Sing every day that it's impossible for the rich to enter heaven. Make them pay tax each week at Sunday Mass. Now, come on now. If you grew up in the church, they had dues. You had tithes and offering. You had dues. You had all kinds of different things. And then coaching, they have reports. Like what you saw that guy, that hustler. What's his name? Carr. Look at what he did. Is his name Carr? No, his name is not Carr. Can't be Carr. What's that guy name? Never could have made it. Marvin Sapp. I'm about to say Carr. He's not a Carr. Marvin Sapp. Man, I hope some of my relatives didn't hear me say that. Marvin Sapp. You heard how he addressed the people when you looked at the pastors that was sitting in the pulpit. He said, you guys already know you got to pay to be up here. Didn't he not say that? See, that's still part of this spirit. Make them pay tax each week at Sunday Mass. Use the money supposed for the poor to build flourishing business centers. Look at what it says. It says use the money that's supposed for the poor to build flourishing business centers. So it said even though people are going to be giving, show them these images of giving back to the community, but actually they're going to be building these buildings. They're going to be building these big giant ministries that the people are not going to benefit from. Institute a confessional system which allows you to be good detectives denouncing any black that has a different consciousness contrary to that of the decision maker. So they're saying use those prayer calls, use those prayer ministries, use that intercession, use that as a way of eavesdropping to use their prayers against them. Come on, family. Institute a confessional system which allows you to be good detective denouncing any black that has a different consciousness contrary to that of the decision maker. Teach the N-words to forget their heroes and to adore only ours. That's why, man, when I caused a lot of commotion back in the day, Sister Carol probably remember this, when I was making posts and making comments like, hey, my fathers it's not the church fathers of, Eusebius, all those guys. Those are not my church fathers. My fathers is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it caused a lot of commotion. You see how they the brainwash here? Push this system of religion to make it so that way we forget about our heroes and then we take on their heroes. We take on their culture. We start celebrating St. Patrick's Day. We start celebrating Valentine's Day. We start celebrating Christmas. We start celebrating Easter. We start celebrating their things that pushes them, that pumps them up. We're celebrating our demise. That's what they're telling you here. Don't give him more than one cigarette. Never invite him for dinner, even if he gives you a chicken every time you arrive at his house. Look at this again. Never invite him for dinner, even if he gives you a chicken every time you arrive at his house. So again, it says, keep the women in 9 months of submission to work freely for us. So family, Catholicism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam are systems of harlotry, spiritual whoredom, and compromise it compromises that Yahweh hates. It have you compromising to things that the Most High do not want us to compromise to. So excuse the typo here. Didn't catch it here. So look at this here. Let's double back here real quick, because earlier I read the article when it told us 10 to 15 million Congos, people in the Congos were murdered by King Leopold. But it made reference to the Belgians. And one key point I want to point out about the Belgians, look at here. Jewish Telegraphic Agency Belgian Jews greet King Leopold III, March 20th, 1934. So these are the name stealers. Belgian who? The name stealers. You see it right here, but let's read it here. King Leopold III, young Belgian monarch, today received a Jewish deputation consisting of the chief rabbi of Belgium. Yeah, these are the name stealers. These are the ones that want you to, by any means, try to get everyone to support their plight. Anyway. Dr. Joseph Wiener and representatives of the Jewish consistory, the deputation congratulated the king on having ascended the throne of Belgium. The king thanked the delegation and the Jews, or the name stealers of Belgium, for their loyalty to him. So family, you guys already know the prophecies of Gog and Magog. And I'm not going to go through all of this, but I want to answer this question or close out with this point that I made. You guys already know this. I'm not going to go through all of this for the sake of time. You guys know who all of these guys right here are part of the Gog and Magog. All of these are part of these Europeans, this group of people. All of these people are part of the son of perdition. These are all descendants of the son of perdition. All right. But I want to skip down to a key prophecy within the prophecies of Gog and Magog. Let's skip down here. And this is why I said we have to be careful. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 6 and 7. Look at what it says here. Matter of fact, I want to start here. I'm going to read here since I have it on the screen. And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Now, this is Russia. You know, these are this is Moscow. These are getting into the Khazars, the Russians, the Ukrainians, the Ashkenaz. These are all these guys right here. Meshech, Tubal, and I will turn back and put hooks into your jaws, and I will bring you forth, and all your army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. But now we're going to get down to verse 5. This is key. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Why is this important, family? This is telling you that there are going to be other countries in Africa that's going to join the side of the colonizers. That's going to form an alliance with Gomer. Look at his Gomer and all his bands. The house of Togarmah, and of the north quarters, and all of his bands, and many people with thee. So all of these guys are coming together, as you see here. Son of man, set your face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And guess what? Gog, Meshech, Tubal, all of these guys ties into the Ashkenazis. It ties into the Scythians or Scythians. It ties into the Khazarians. It ties into the Ukrainians. All of these are the same people, and it's saying all these different groups, nations within the continent of Africa. It's going to be many African nations that's going to align themselves with them. And so this is why I will say to many of our brothers and sisters that are traveling around the world, many are relocating to Africa. This is where you're going to have to be careful. You're going to have to make sure you understand the scriptures. The warnings are there. Not everyone that may look like you are connected to you or have your best interests. As we see here, Kenya, look at what happened in Kenya to Bishop Nathaniel, just by teaching the people that Yahushua is a dark melanated man. You know, that I don't like to use the word black because that connects with the institution of race, but just for the sake of conversation, teaching that Jesus is black, Yahushua is black. But they didn't want to hear that. They wanted to chase them out of there. So this answers the question going all the way back. Let me play the video one more time. Oh, come on, mouse. Play the video one more time.
We went to a church yesterday. We were teaching outside. As soon as the church heard Jesus was black, they were infuriated. We've just read in the scripture. They got so mad, they threw rocks. Why? Because a lot of you in Kenya hate yourself. You hate the way you look. You hate anything black. Why? Because it upsets your European colonizers.
So that's what happened over there. And so the root of the issue is the spell that they're up under. But also, again, it ties into what I just read, Ezekiel 38, starting at verse 5. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. So we see that they're going to be African countries or countries in Africa that's going to align themselves with these guys. All right. Let me see if I have this here. I'll share with you guys real quick. I may have it here, showing the connection of all these guys. I'm not going to go through all this, the rest of this stuff here. Let me see here. All right. So let's just say I'm going to pull up the definition of Magog, right? Well, we see Magog, Meshach, right? Let's start with Magog. Look at here. I'll just bring this up real quick. It says here, Magog, region of Gog, second son of second son of Japheth. In Ezekiel, it is the name of a nation, probably some Scythian or Tartar tribe descended from Japheth. But we see here Scythian, right? Or Scythian. We see here Scythian, nation, fierce and innumerable, who live beyond the Caucasus, right? So, and we see the Caspian Sea. You guys know what this is, and this is spread out even onward to India. So that means that what you see, for example, that deceptive word Sephardic, because I know many of our brothers and sisters would automatically default by thinking that when you see that word Sephardic, you're dealing with dark melanated people. No, that's not correct. Because these people, the Scythians, they made it all the way out to India. So that means Spain and Portugal, all those areas which you see, many of them are still connected to the Scythians by way of the Khazars. All right. Well, let me show you here. So that's the Magog, right? And if we go to the Scythians or Scythians right here, look at what it says. Scythians or Scythians. But it tells us a nomadic people originally of Iranian stock who migrated westward from Central Asia to southern Russia and Ukraine. Powerful empire centered on what is now Crimea. Come on, family. These are all these are the same people. When we go to Ashkenaz, look at what it says about Ashkenaz, because the Scythians told us to see Ashkenaz. So we see Ashkenaz here. And look at this. For Herodotus, these people came to be called Scythians or Scythians. So still the same territories, Black, Caspian Sea, but again, Gomer, but this is still connected. The Scythians connected to Magog, connected to, as we just read here, I'm going to connect them to the Khazarians as well. But look at this here, Ashkenaz. So we see the Scythians are connected to Magog, is connected to, as we see here, Ashkenaz. All right, let me show you one more thing. Let me show you another connector. We're dealing with the Khazars right here. All right. Coming from the Jewish Encyclopedia, still the same area. A Turkish people whose life and history are interwoven with the very beginning of the history of the Jews of Russia. But they don't want to tell you that. They want to call you anti-Semitic, but this is the Jewish Encyclopedia, volume 4. All right. And we see the Scythian Jots, as you see in this source here, which is connected to the Vikings, the Norse people. I'm just giving you a glimpse here. There was a fresh conquest of England by the Danes and the Norman of Duke. So Norman, this is dealing with the Vikings. All right. Let's see here. So I'm just showing you this real quick. And like I pointed out, Meshach, right? We see here Russia identification connecting these two nations with the modern Russian cities Moscow and Tobolsk. Moscow and Tobolsk. They know who they are. We'll see that again here. Look at the territory. Black and Caspian Sea. That's key right there, family. All of the definitions, all the people I highlighted, you still see the Black and Caspian Sea. Look at this. Mingling with the Scythians. There they became known as Moscows. So that's who you also know, Moscow. So I'm just showing you this, family. So when we go all the way back down to this chapter here, Ezekiel 38, verse 5 and 6, the Persians, these African countries or nations, they are going to connect with the son of perdition, which is all these other nations. So that's what I want to point out to you guys in summary, just so that way you guys can connect the dots. So that's why I say this is no surprise with what we see that took place with Bishop Nathaniel and his group, because the scriptures make it clear that many of those nations that we see in Africa, many of the nations in Africa, they're going to be connected with the name stealers. They're going to be connected with the Russians. They're going to be connected with the Ukrainians. They're going to be connected with the United States. They're going to be connected with these different groups of people. And they're going to do what? Go against the true Israelites. Anyway, family, let me look at the chat. I haven't even taken a look at the chat at all. As we get ready to wrap up here. I want to say peace and blessings to James Mitchell. Thank you for the super chat. New York City here. I'm from the Brick City. I'm from Newark, New Jersey, right across the Hudson from you. I always enjoy this study. Appreciate you. Thank you for the love and support. And family, let's show some love for James Mitchell. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. All right, let's see here. All right, so family, this is why I want to just share this lesson with you guys. And you see many of our brothers and sisters, not just over in Kenya, but we have it taking place here in the States. Some of the people that you get the worst comments, the hatred and all that too, is our own people. I'm sure you guys can attest. So family, with that being said, let me go ahead and wrap it up, take it down. Really appreciate the love and support. In the words of the Most High, Yahweh, the words that he gave to Moses in Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 to 14. He said, "Fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today will not have power over you ever again. The Most High will fight for you." But here's the kicker. We have to hold our peace. The Hebrew word there is harash, which means be quiet. Can't go back. Can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14, verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was black. Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis